Hi guys, Andy here. It is still Android Andy, despite what you see here. Who would have thought I would own an iPad? I didn't buy an iPad, it was given to me by work for me to use, and I won't lie, it's really handy to have at work. And at home for that matter, linked into my work stuff. I think the last and the only Apple product I bought was an iPod Shuffle. Someone will have to tell me how long ago that might have been. I'm going to guess 8 to 10 years ago. I have always said I should try an iOS device. How do I know what Android is better at than iOS, or vice versa, if I've never tried it? So yeah, I wasn't massively keen on having an iPad, but at the same time it was a good way for me to experience iOS without spending any money. So here is the device. I'm sure you're all very much aware what an iPad looks like, so I won't waste too much time with that. Well, we'll go straight into it, into one of my usual reviews. Now, I did do a Windows Phone review and a Windows operating system review at the beginning of the year, which some of you may have watched and may have seen some of the arguments in the comments. They're my most thumbed down videos that I've ever done. So some Windows fans didn't like what I said about the operating system and the Nokia 1520. I thought I was actually quite complimentary. I was quite impressed by it. It was better than I thought it would be. But obviously they were looking for me to think it was perfect with no faults. Now, watch any of my reviews, almost all my phones I do find fault with them. I think that's kind of my job, that's what I'm supposed to do as a reviewer. Even if I think they're a great device, which the 1520, I thought it was good, but I wanted to point out some things that I didn't like about it. And I'll tell you right now, there's going to be things that I'm not used to or that I don't like with the iPad. That doesn't mean I think it's a bad device. I'm just going to point these things out to you, especially if you're an Android user that's trying to decide, oh, should I get an iPad? Because a lot of people I hear about, they like to have the iPad Android phone combination to kind of get the best of both worlds, which I guess is what I'm doing at the moment. I haven't got an Android tablet at the moment. I broke the screen of my Nexus 7, and since it roughly coincided with me getting the iPad, what was the point? It does make it hard for me to compare what the iPad is like compared to an Android, because I've not really had a top-end Android tablet, large screen tablet, for a long time, or ever really, I suppose, in many ways. But still, I'll give you my thoughts on iOS and the iPad, basically. Okay, so let's start with the design. It's slim, sleek, it's sturdy. So when I say it's slim, that's 7.5mm thick. That's pretty damn thin, really. Even compared to sort of a lot of mobile phones, it's thinner than most of them. It weighs 469 grams, which seems a good weight to me. It's enough to make it sort of sturdy feeling, but it's not too heavy. As a comparison, the new Galaxy Tab S 10.5 is 467 grams, so pretty much the same, 2 grams difference. So I like the design. It's nicely designed. There is obviously this reasonably thick bezel around the edges, but I have no problem with that on the tablet. You need a fair bit of bezel because you're going to be picking up and holding it. You don't want to be catching your fingers on touchable display. The hardware inside it, the CPU is an Apple A7 dual-core 1.3 GHz, which is a little odd. It's down on the previous year's iPad, which was a 1.4 dual-core. Even the N7 has a quad-core 1.5, so the processor itself is quite limited. The GPU, however, is a PowerVR G6430 quad-core, so the GPU has got a lot of power in there. I don't know how much the GPU sort of helps the CPU out in things other than gaming, but I would say you wouldn't think, playing with it, you wouldn't imagine, it needs more power, because it's generally it's very slick and smooth. The screen is 2048 by 1536, which is identical to the iPad 4 from the year before. It's an LED backlit IPS. So that comes to 264 pixels per inch. Oops, I think that's plenty. I think the screen looks very crisp, very clear. I'm not a big fan. Well, I'm not a big fan. I just don't see the need for these 400 pixels per inch things that we're hearing about. The Nexus 7 2013 had 323 pixels per inch. Just as a reference, like I said, I don't see that that's a down point, that it's a lower amount. The camera is a 5 megapixel camera. It's very fast and has good results. Well, I say very fast. It's fast. It's fast enough, and with good results. I've never been really sort of waiting. Oh, come on, focus. You know, it bounces in and out a bit, and then we fell. Let's just go. Let's go in, and I'll show you. Media camera. There. So you know that was fast enough, I would have said. And as you can see, I think that's oh yeah, we don't. Generally pretty good results. The speakers, decent enough, you know, good enough that I don't watch a lot of multimedia, especially even on my iPad, to be honest, unless I go away on holiday perhaps, and I haven't. Since I've owned this, I've not been away. That's when I might watch movies or TV or YouTube and such. But let's just go into YouTube so you can see. Just find something to play. Awful fans, look.
Girls, why so many beauty products?
And we have to watch the ad apparently. Where's my volume?
Not only does it keep you up to 100% flake-free, it also conditions for manageability. Great looking hair, no fuss.
So
Head
full
and Shoulders
volume at
2-in-1.
the speakers at the
Look,
bottom.
I'm not here to tell you how to live your life, but if I were here to tell you how to live your life, it would
How
go
do
a
we know
little
what?
something like this.
How do we know what res we're on? Let's go up to 1080p.
I know there's mounting evidence to the contrary, but trust me, it is possible to be a passionate college football fan and a non-awful human being all at the same time. We're all going to be terrible at some...
So there's a bit of a demo. So the speaker, plenty loud enough I would say, just for you watching something on your lap. Obviously the hardware also has the accelerometer, the gyro, the compass. You can see there, it's slick and smooth. You don't get many false detections of, oh, I thought you were. So you know, that's kind of as you would expect, I think, really. Finally, as far as hardware, the battery is 8,820 milliamp hours, which is actually smaller than the iPad 4, but I guess obviously that's because we're going to the Air version, which needs to be nice and thin. The iPad 4 is 11,560, so it's quite a bit smaller, but you will literally get a week's of light use from the iPad Air easily. So I'm on 59%. I don't think I've charged for since, well, at least 3 or 4 days. Let's move on to the software. I still don't know my way around too well. So I'm on 7.1.2 and I'm up to date. Yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't used the settings a great deal. Bits and pieces here and there. So it is nice having a different app store for the iPad and for the iPhone, but at the same time there are some things that then I'm really surprised that there's not an app for when I search it. So let's see, maybe it's better now. So Instagram just really surprises me that Instagram don't have an actual iPad app. Now I found one, and again, then I didn't feel it was that. So look at these followers for Instagram. It's all about followers. Well, actually, no, I'm not entirely sure what those other ones are. You know, if I was just looking for something to follow my Instagram feed, all these about get followers. I thought iOS didn't have crap all over their store. What is that about? Even there. So just to find, I did in the end. I forget which one it is now. Social retro it was called. Look. So I did find one, and it's, you know, it looks nice. Then it works well. Do you know? Oh, anyway. Sofia Vergara. So you know, yeah, you can get there. Just it's not as, you know, I don't know. I guess I'd heard so much about the Apple App Store that I'm expecting too much, but I've not been all that impressed. There's a few things I search for and they're not there, and even so, like Google Calendar, I suppose there's only 2 options. Calendar. Now you could argue the built-in one, yeah, it does the job, so you know, why worry? Right, there are a few more now, sorry, because Sunrise Calendar was there. So yeah, I mean, there's there are a few options into the paid things. Oh, Pocket Informer, I think that might be new. Anyway, it's a little surprise. It wasn't quite as great as I'd imagined. A few things that I had trouble finding. And what I did find, if you do install, have I got it installed? I'm sure I thought I did have Foursquare, for example. If you do install the phone version of the app, it looks terrible on the iPad. What's going on? Oh, it's because it's a new app, perhaps. So actually, it looks a bit better than it did before, because they've obviously. But that's effectively what it looks like until you sort of say, oh, well, double it up for me, just make it bigger for my screen. So I guess the advantage with Android having so many different resolutions to deal with, the developers have to make their apps that scale better. Whereas because iPhone apps have the set size, they don't worry about, well, what if someone runs it on an iPad? They either make an iPad version or they don't bother. And like I say, it does actually look a bit better now. It used to look really horrible on the previous version. So again, maybe I'm being a bit picky. Maybe I should just be grateful for it having its own store, and actually it does have a lot of apps in its own store. Perhaps I am just being a bit picky. The keyboard's an interesting one. What's the easiest way for me to? Let's go into my shopping list. Look, add a list item. So here's our keyboard. For me, as an Android user, it seemed really weird that the letters were always capital. I'm sure an iOS user will be like, well, what are you moaning about? That's how a keyboard is. You know, if you look at your keyboard on your computer, that's how it is. Yeah, fair enough. But when I press Shift, I'm used to those keys changing, so I know which I'm typing in. You do get used, obviously, to looking at the Shift key, but it does still catch me out sometimes, especially if I type something and then I go back, and this is another point, but I'll come to it in a second. So I think, well, I didn't want a capital. Boo. Oh, it's capital again. Oh, it's capital again. What are you doing? And you have to actually undo. So it kind of remembers the state of the letter you deleted, which I guess is clever and I guess is useful, and it's probably just that I'm not used to it. But yeah, that's annoyed me a few times. And also, if I have spelt something wrong, I can't get into. Again, I'm used to be able to tap in between the D and the R, for example, and I have to get used to tapping and holding and have the little bubble appear above, and then I'm there. So again, I'm not bashing it for that. I'm not used to that. I'm used to with Android. I can tap. If I make a mistake, I can literally tap in between two letters, and if it does get it wrong, yeah, I can tap and hold and move. But so now, obviously, I understand in iOS 8 they're going to have third-party keyboards, so that will change a lot of things, because you can't, for example, you know, I'm used to being able to hold down and then get a number above the I, for example. Obviously, you can hold down, well, still only get one option there. I do like it. It's very easy to use Shift and get the characters that way. Again, I guess it's just about what you're used to generally. I do like that you can split the keyboard. So when you are wandering around typing away, you can do that, and that works in both ways. Oh, and I should say, let's put them back together. You can type very fast, and you can see, look, it is accurate. I've managed to type that perfectly. So you can, if you have to bang out an email, for example, it is surprisingly easy, and I've not been used to that before, mainly because I've only used an Nexus 7 and the screen is quite small. Hard to say whether that's to do with the operating system as well or not, but credit to it, yeah, you can type very quickly on the... Oh my goodness, let's come out of this app. So, I would also say I don't think the operating system's quite as slick as everyone, or as I thought it might be. There are a few times... and I suppose my banking app's one of the best examples, so it'll come up in a second saying tap to, and I'll start entering. Look, that time it works perfectly straight away. Quite often, I've opened the app, it said tap on the screen, I start typing, it misses the first character, because it's just not ready, or I'm trying to unlock the device and I'm tapping away on the numbers, and actually only half of them have worked, and I'm missing the OK because actually the area to press OK for the thing is probably just too small. So yeah, generally it's very fast, it's very slick, things open all nice and neatly and run nice and smooth. There's a few jerks you see there. I get that with my emails as well quite often. I'll open something up, or even Twitter perhaps, and I start scrolling and I think it's kind of, and I tap and then it moves again, and that's a bit odd. So there we go. AirDrop, I used it once, and it did take a little bit. I'll be honest, it was quite a long while ago now. I can't remember exactly. We did struggle a little bit. I think we had to pair it up first, and then it only took 2 minutes. But it wasn't quite it just works as I thought it might be. I do like the control panel at the bottom generally. Obviously, you do generally get that in Android. But yeah, I was a bit surprised there's no auto brightness. That's fairly standard on even cheap Android phones. I was a bit surprised. I don't know if does the iPhone not have auto brightness? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, and obviously your controls there. Likewise, we do get notifications from the top. I'll be honest, I've never used these notifications. I use Android ones all the time, but I guess it's because nothing actually, when you close it, you wouldn't really know they're there. I don't get anything simple saying you missed an email or you missed a Facebook notification. So I don't know. I just don't really think to go to it, I guess. But I don't know, maybe that'll adapt and change and improve. To me, not that useful. Maybe you could say I'm using it wrong. I'm not used to being that way. I'm used to getting the dots and I go in and dismiss them when I've seen them. I do like the multi-touch controls, so if I was to go into an application and then I want to go back to the last one or the one before, I like that sort of thing. I'm sure I'm supposed to be able to do that, and it zooms out. I can use obviously the double tap and switch between, or I can get rid of them. Again, that's kind of I believe it's been nicked from Android as they've gone multitasking. I'm sure something like that comment's going to get me some flames. Whoopsie. So I do, I like those movements. I do find it very odd not to have a back button. Sometimes when I'm thinking, I select an option, I'm thinking I want to just press back, and then I have to struggle trying to find where the, normally it's going to be up here, but it does seem to move sometimes. There's like a back or a cancel or something, but you do have to locate it, and I'm not used to that. But I do prefer always having like a back button somewhere on the bezel that I know that's where I go, and it just takes me back to whatever the last point was. I would normally next then talk about hackability. I haven't looked into that because it's a work device. I've not wanted to risk jailbreaking and looking into the options there. I don't generally think they're very hackable though, are they? I don't know, you tell me if you disagree. It's not like people work on different ROMs, is it, or optimize the ROMs and things. That's not what iPads are about. They are about just working. All in all, I think it's a good device. I'd be stupid, I'd be crazy to try and, I don't want to come across as an Android fanboy. Yes, I love Android, that's my preferred operating system, but there's no denying that the iPad is a decent bit of hardware. Obviously, iOS is a good operating system, and I've never said that it's not, I don't think. I just prefer the way that Android does it. I don't like how Apple can lock things down, they'll be very restrictive. I've not liked some of the ways that Apple have operated their business in some ways as well, if I'm honest. That could spark a few comments and arguments below. But, it is a good device. If you're looking for a tablet, you've got to consider the iPad, obviously. Would I recommend a more expensive iPad against some of the cheaper, top-end Android tablets? Yeah, I honestly, for me, I wouldn't see the reason to buy an iPad unless you specifically wanted an iPad. I would look at what's the best value. I think the Android tablets these days, and Android itself these days, is much more polished, and the app base now, I think it surely rivals the iPad. I know some people say that iOS apps are more are better written, they look better, they're more polished. I can't say that I've seen that, but that's, again, I suppose that's personal preference. So yeah, great device. Should you buy one? Yes, I can't tell you personally if I had to go and buy one. No, I probably wouldn't. I'd probably buy a Samsung or something like that. But that's the choice for you to now make. Hopefully I've helped you a bit with that though. My name's Andy. I'll catch you all again soon.